Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you. On the 5th of March in 2020, I think it's a day that we all remember because that is when we woke up South Africa to breaking news that the COVID-19 virus had eventually reached South African shores. And I use the word eventually because we were made to understand that it was inevitable. In fact, it was, because we all witnessed the devastation, not only in terms of the loss of life. We witnessed the devastation in terms of economies crumbling on their knees. We witnessed the devastation in terms of industries that suffered severely, persons that suffered severely who were employed in these industries. The hospitality industry is no different. It is so exciting this morning, ladies and gentlemen, 4 years down the line. Can you believe it already? The days of social distancing behind us, the days of quarantine behind us, as we look at how far we have come. We have gathered this morning, ladies and gentlemen, under the theme, the impact of the hospitality sector on the local economy, brought to you by Proudly South African. My name is Duduzi Leramela, and I'll be a facilitator this morning. Thank you very much for choosing to spend your time with us this morning as we look forward to learning, as we look forward to realizing just how far we have come as a country as we mark 4 years after the COVID-19 pandemic and its devastating impact on this industry. It is said the hospitality industry to be an industry that has the key and the potential to unlock job creation in South Africa. We know that it contributes to the GDP of the country quite healthily so. And so this morning, ladies and gentlemen, you're invited to open your minds and to open your hearts and to receive that which will be presented to you by various speakers that have been brought on board by Proudly South African. Before we go ahead and introduce our speakers this morning, just a number of housekeeping, not necessarily rules, but what you do need to know this morning. We are live on a number of platforms, and that is LinkedIn, that is Facebook, that is YouTube, and that is Twitter. You can also catch us and contribute to the discussion on our social media networks. We are on Twitter, and the handle on Twitter is @ProudlySA. On Instagram, proudly.sa. On Facebook, Proudly South African. And as we mentioned, we are on LinkedIn and YouTube as well. You can use the hashtag #BuyLocal to create jobs. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, if you'll allow me to introduce our first speaker for this morning, a man who needs no introduction at all, and he is the CEO of Proudly South African, Mr. Eustace Mashimbie. Mr. Mashimbie, before you continue with your presentation, I must just let everybody who is in on this know, because this morning as I walked into the Proudly South African offices, engaging with a number of colleagues here, I asked people, so what does Proudly South African stand for? What does Proudly South African do? And this is what I was told. We are about buy local. We are about pushing localization. The word patriotism comes in there. We've seen with different sporting codes as well what happened over the weekend, what happened in a number of sporting events where it is in our DNA as South Africans to be patriotic, to be proudly South African, and to buy and support local. I also found out that we are about local procurement when it comes to Proudly South African. And at the end of it all and through it all, buy local to create jobs. And that is what the mandate of Proudly South African is. And that is what people in the halls of Proudly South African will tell you. So Mr. Mashimbie, you can be proud, sir, because everyone in Proudly South African in these offices is on board. Mr. Mashimbie is going to be speaking about the importance of localization within the hospitality sector. Proudly South African CEO, Mr. Eustace Mashimbie, it's over to you, sir.
Yes, good morning, Dudu, and good morning to my fellow panelists and to those who have made time to join us this morning for this webinar. It's heartwarming to hear that my colleagues at Proudly South African have the same understanding as I do, and it shows that we are all in sync, and we hope that by the end of this webinar, we will have more people who will have the same understanding and who will know what it is that they can do to contribute to this economic patriotism that we're calling for. So you're right, it's really about patriotism, but from an economic perspective, all of us spend money on a day-to-day basis on one or another item or service. And what we're calling for as Palace Healthcare is for those purchasing decisions to be made in favor of locally made products. And so I think with that introduction, it sort of makes my job a little bit easier because I was going to give a bit of context, but you've laid it out so nicely in that, the country battles, high unemployment. And as a result, there is a need, for us to promote localization, to drive the buying of locally made products, and ultimately buy local to create jobs, like you said. And so if you look at the unemployment numbers at the end of Q1 of 2024, which was March 2024, we still had unemployment hovering at above 32.9%, at about 32.9%. But if you look at the expanded definition of unemployment, which includes those who are discouraged and those whose reasons for not searching are not necessarily known, we're looking at 41.9%, so at least 42%, 12 million people who should be in jobs in a country with a population estimated between 62 and 66 million people who should be in jobs who are not in jobs. Mostly affected the youth, mostly affected women, and we know the hospitality industry is geared towards, ensuring that jobs can be created, but mostly for young people and the Black African women who are most affected. So this is an industry that we definitely have to support because it has the ability to create those jobs, especially for those sectors of society that are mostly affected by these high levels of unemployment. And so I'm going to talk quickly about the, manufacturing, broadly manufacturing. I know the conversation is about hospitality, but you will see it will all tie in because the hospitality industry is in a position to can support manufacturing. As much as we're talking services today, but there are products consumed and bought by this industry. So as much as the conversation today is about what can be done by us to support the hospitality industry to get it to a point where it can create jobs, but it's equally important and to sort of flip the script a bit and say, what is it that the hospitality industry can do to ensure that those of us who are in a position to can afford their services can continue being employed, and we can get more people employed so that we grow the base of customers that can ultimately take up the services and offerings that come from the hospitality industry. And so manufacturing broadly, speaking, is very important. It's high in terms of its ability to absorb jobs as well. So it's labor intensive and contributed to 21% to the GDP, reduced to 13% in 2021. I mean, from 1994 to 2021, the contribution from this industry has dropped a lot. If you look at the number of jobs pre the COVID-19 pandemic, with an average of 1.8 million jobs, declined to 1.4 million jobs. And this is one of the reasons why, I mean, I've just quickly picked an industry that those in the hotel groups, those in the restaurant spaces, those in lodges, B&Bs. I mean, this whole industry on its own, it supports the furniture industry. All of us buy furniture in one form or another. And so if you look at the number of factories that used to make furniture in the country, we used to have 3,500 factories making furniture in the country, reduced to 1,100. So we've lost capacity up to about 2,400 factories just within a 20-year period between 1999 and about 2020. And in terms of number of jobs, about half of the jobs, the direct jobs that used to be created by the furniture industry have been lost. And these are not the only jobs lost. If you look at the value chain, other jobs are lost across that entire ecosystem. I mean, if you're going to produce a furniture item, those factories that I spoke about, we have since closed down. I mean, they required raw materials and components to make furniture. So every time a factory like that closes, it impacts on those industries that are part of the value chain that supply them with the components and raw material that they utilize to manufacture the industries. And it's not always obvious, to one's mind when you think about what goes into a furniture item. But I can tell you that it goes as far back as the agricultural industry supplying natural fibers, hides, and skins, which are then converted by the textile and leather industry into textile and leather items that are ultimately used by the furniture manufacturer. The metal industry utilizes metal parts. There's paints and adhesives and chemicals and glues that are utilized to make furniture. And all of those industries that you see on my screen are impacted every time we buy imported furniture. They all lose out. And so jobs are then lost in the process, and the economy at large loses out. And so our mandate is unpacked by the program director earlier. It's quite simple. The way our colleagues or my colleagues unpacked it for you is correct. It's really about taking pride in what is made locally. It's about driving local procurement. It's about making sure that decisions that are made for buying are made in favor of locally made products. And so this phenomenon of buying local that we are striving for, as a country and as proudly South African, is one that is, has been tried and tested all over the world. Is a global phenomenon. We've seen it in developed economies such as Australia, the US, UK, the Philippines, and even across the whole continent. We are seeing a lot of buy local campaigns being established. We even have campaigns for towns, for regions, for cities where there's a need to support a specific industry. Buy local campaigns are sometimes positioned to do that. If you think of the US, a town like Detroit, where the automotive industry in the form of Ford, Jeep, Cherokee, Daimler, Chrysler, those cars are made in that town. And so the campaigns driven in those towns are really geared towards ensuring that not only the people in those towns or in those states, but across the whole of the US buy cars made in the US. I mean, the trade wars between the United States and China are really well documented, and as a result of the United States saying if there's anything that we're making ourselves as a country and is being consumed by those living within the borders of the US, they would rather prefer that it does not get imported, and that that which is consumed by the people in the US is what is made in the US. But China wants to push their products into that economy, into all our economies, because they've positioned themselves as a manufacturer and a factory for the world. And that way they're able to create jobs. 1.4 billion people living in China, but the unemployment levels are very low, between 3 and 4 and 5% at times. And because there is uptake of that which they make, and as a result, people are getting employed, and the job opportunities mushrooming all over that country. And so the United States even has an act. In 1933, they enacted the first act known as Buy American Act, followed that up with the Buy America Act and Buy America Improvement Act in 2017, and even the current president, President Biden, within the first week of coming into office, signed into a law provisions that strengthens the Buy American provisions, because they understand the economic impact of decisions being made in favor of industries that are the major source of employment and contribution to their economy. And so some of the benefits of localization, of local procurement, of buying local, as we call it, that those companies are able to retain the jobs that they will have created. They're able to create new job opportunities as a result of us buying from them. And so it's important that we are mindful of the fact that when you come across a product and it carries a label of origin that says made in China, you're supporting jobs in China. If it says made in South Africa, we are giving an opportunity to a business, whether it's a small business or a big business, to stay alive, to remain operational, to retain the jobs that they will have created. And as a result of increased demand and them needing to produce more to meet that demand, they will then be in a position to create new job opportunities. And those people who are then given an opportunity to work in those companies acquire skills. A lot of young people in the country remain unemployed, no skills whatsoever. And those are the skills that they could utilize to then, not only secure other job opportunities, but possibly start new businesses, go into this industry based on the skills they've acquired, based on the knowledge they acquire, based on the exposure they acquire when they're working. They will then see gaps and opportunities that will then give them an opportunity to start businesses and to employ others in their towns. I mean, I know you're going to hear from various speakers today, and they will tell you. Those in the restaurant space, Sakumzi, well-known, will tell you about the jobs they've created in that space. You will hear about a hotel in Soweto and the jobs created in that space. And those are people directly benefiting from employment opportunities as a result of people visiting those establishments. You will also hear from Southern Sun, and they will tell you about what job opportunities they're able to create, and as a result, ensure that the living standards of those who benefit from those opportunities, job opportunities, have come up as a result of that. And so when you think broadly about manufacturing and everything that I've spoken about, there is a study that we even did to confirm our understanding of what the benefits are of buying local to the economy. So if you see what I've projected on the screen, you'll see that it talks about the impact of just increasing our investment in domestic manufacturing by 10%. And that increase in domestic manufacturing can only come up as a result of increased consumption and increased buying of locally made products. And just with 10% increase in investment in manufacturing and uptake of products made in South Africa, you will have 13% contribution to the GDP. You have a 9% increase in fiscal revenue, which is money available to government to render services as a result of a higher tax base. You will have 75,300 new jobs created in manufacturing. And just like I demonstrated in my example around furniture, because the value chain impacts other industries, you'll have additional jobs created in mining and in agriculture. And overall, you'll have an 8% increase in employment creation. That is just with 10% increased investment in manufacturing and uptake of locally made products. Imagine what the numbers would look like if you went 20% and 30%. You'd have more and more people getting job opportunities, and we would start, seriously addressing this high levels of unemployment. And so our focus areas as Polish South African include buying that is done by government. As much as today I said I will flip the script and I will talk about the contribution that the hospitality industry can make towards growing the economy, but equally government has a role to play. So we want consumers to support the hospitality industry so that the hospitality industry, as part of the private sector, can play its role. So we engage the private sector alongside the engagements we have with government to get both sectors of society to look at what it is they're buying and as best as possible, support locally made products. And we also have a role to educate the general public, like we're doing today through this webinar. Educate you, the masses, on the importance of you supporting domestic industries, supporting the hospitality industry in this country, ensuring that you take what we used to see SA tourism referring to as short left. Visit the establishments in your area, visit the establishments in your town, visit the establishments in the country, learn more about your country, and ensure that you contribute to the growth of the economy. Because ultimately, the jobs that will be created by this industry will benefit those in your homes, those in your streets, in your communities. We all know someone who's unemployed, and at most times, they're even in our homes and in the communities in which we live. And the last focus area for Proudly South African is to ensure that we promote accessibility of locally made products and services. How we're going to make it easy for the government, for the private sector, and for consumers who want to buy local to find those products. If you cast your mind back to over all these years where you've seen the Proudly SA logo, you might not necessarily have known what it stands for, but you've seen that it's made up of the colors of the flag of the Republic of South Africa. And I assume that everyone knew instantly that that means that product that carries that logo represents a product made in South Africa. That business that carries the Proudly South African logo on their premises, on their website, on their business cards, on their letterhead, and on all marketing collateral is telling you that the service you are about to buy is rendered to you by a company that complies with the requirements of Proudly South African, and the first one being local content. If it's a service business, we want them to buy local. The services that they render must be rendered utilizing products made in South Africa. And going back to the example I gave earlier on, what are the establishments buying? Is the furniture in your favorite restaurant coming from South Africa? And that is what we check our companies that affiliate with us. They need to make sure that on a day-to-day basis, whether it's the food products or any consumables that they utilize, are sourced locally. And so equally for those who are producing products, we want the raw materials and components to be sourced locally. And that's the first requirement that companies that affiliate with us have to take and demonstrate the compliance with, is the fact that the product is made in South Africa. Second, it must be of a high quality nature. If it's an industry like this, where there's food involved, there must be compliance with food safety standards, there must be compliance with hospitality standards, there must be grading done of the establishment by the Tourism Grading Council and whatever body exists in that space. If it's a product, we need to make sure that it complies with the highest quality standards set out, so that we don't say to South Africans, buy local, consume local, take up locally made services or locally rendered services without giving them an assurance that that tick they see on the logo is an assurance that the product is of a high quality nature. And then companies that affiliate with us have to ensure that they help us preserve the environment and that they treat their workers fairly. If you think of the business support ecosystem, business people, including in this industry, want access to a lot of things, including information, funding, ways in which they can register and protect their IP and trademarks, ways in which they can be assisted to comply, including with tax and statutory obligations. But the most important thing, which is what we're talking about today, is access to markets. Proudly South African's role sits at the heart of this entire ecosystem, which is about making sure that if there's a product that's coming from an existing business, whether it's an existing product, whether it's a new product, whether the business itself is a new entrant to that market, including transformed entities and Black-owned companies and women-owned businesses and youth-owned businesses that would otherwise struggle with accessing markets, can be supported by Proudly South African. And so our role as Proudly South African is really to give our members who will have gone through that vetting process to check for the compliance with the 4 key criteria, ensure that those companies benefit from our access to market programs. And this just at a high level, we have access to market opportunities that sit on the e-commerce space. So for those of you who have actual products that you want to sell on to consumers and you want to sell to those who buy from the comfort of their homes or their workplaces, we do have partnerships, third-party partnerships with a lot of e-commerce platforms, some which are not even showed on the screen. I mean, Zuzi Marketplace, One Day Only, Made by Artisans, Take a Lot is one of our partners. And so members of Proudly can get to register and list their products on there. So it makes it easy for a buyer who wants to buy to say, where can I buy a locally made product? You can find it on those platforms. We do a lot of work to ensure that we get retailers to give shelf space to our guys. We have created portals. In government, there is the CSD. If you want to do business with government, you're on the CSD. But in the private sector, what we've done is we've created a portal called MAP, which is utilized by buyers in the private sector to find products that are made in South Africa. And so we do what we can to ensure that those who want to buy local can easily find the products, whether as ordinary consumers or whether as a private sector. And with the public sector, we've created integration of our database with the CSD. Buyers in government who go on and look for suppliers, when they do their searches, names of companies that are affiliated with us will come up with the logo next to them, telling the buyer in government that you can buy from this company because they comply with the criteria set out by Proudly South African. So if you think of this industry, the travel and hospitality industry, it ranges from flights and transport, related industry. There's accommodation involved. There's activities that are not necessarily obvious to one's mind, but there are many activities that those who are traveling, and even on a weekend, you can go and undertake as part of, relaxing and enjoying yourself. There's business travel and conferences, there's hospitality linked to restaurants and similar establishments. And then there's tours that you can take and you can visit local markets. So the opportunities are endless. These are ways in which you can support this hospitality industry. It does not limit you only to having money to get on a flight and going to another town, but you can do a local tour. You can visit a local market, you can visit a local restaurant and undertake some of the activities that are in this industry. This industry generates about 740,000 direct jobs, and some of my colleagues will talk about that. But the industry continues to grow and continues to recover following the COVID-19 pandemic, which had decimated, in a big way, this industry. And so there are ways in which we are then, as Proudly South African, calling on the South African tourism industry to support the Buy Local initiative. And these are just some of the examples. As I conclude my presentation, I want to quickly, demonstrate how the industry itself, whilst calling on people to support the industry, this is how, the industry can support the domestic industry. If you are in the transportation services, you can support local by looking at what drinks are served on the airlines, what serviettes, snacks, uniforms are bought for those who work in the aviation industry. If you think of hotels and lodges and
what do you want me to do?
Sorry, somebody has not muted. Can you mute, please? Okay, apologies for that. And so hotels, lodges, and B&Bs can assist us by ensuring that they buy their furniture locally. They buy the appliances they utilize in their establishments locally. We've given examples: the furniture from Homewood, Mr. Price, TFG, appliances from Hisense. These are all made locally. Jobs are created in those industries. thousands of jobs are created in those industries. All the amenities that are provided in those establishments can be sourced locally. The food and beverages, the poultry industry really needs our support. There's art and decor that is put up in those establishments, uniforms, bedding, linen, all of that can be sourced locally. When you think of this industry, there's people like the vehicle rental agencies, there's hotels who buy shuttles. So a lot of cars are made in South Africa. There are 7 OEMs that make cars in South Africa, and what we are calling for and what we have been able to secure by way of commitments in the past is a commitment for local establishments, to buy the locally made cars, and they are across all types and sizes of cars, flowing from the C-Class, the X3, the Fortuner, Toyota Corolla, the C-Class, like I said, the VW Polo, and many more that are options available to just ensure that from what you're buying, a bigger portion of the fleet that you're buying must be made locally. If you think of those in restaurants and in fine dining, in shopping centers and local markets, local cuisines should be made with ingredients sourced locally. Support the concept of ensuring that we support the entire value chain from the farm to the dining table, through vegetables, etc., that are bought locally. There's no need to buy some of the stuff from outside of South Africa because we do have them locally. In terms of local activities and experiences, which talks to local markets, attractions, etc., you can create local experience packages, have tours that expose South Africans to that which is made in South Africa, and promote local restaurants as a tour guide. Ensure that you, as part of the routes that you map out as part of the experience that you want to give both domestic and international tourists, that there is extensive support for crafts, arts, etc., that is made locally. And so that is what we're calling on South African. We're calling on the South African tourism industry to do. I want to quickly play a video as I conclude, which sort of summarizes what we are calling on, but through the voices of the children. We're calling on South Africans to ensure that there is an economy that we can be proud of, that can be passed on to the next generation. This is our current campaign. This is the ad that we're currently flighting. And we hope that the message resonates with you, it hits home and makes you think twice every time you make a purchasing decision, not only as a consumer visiting a domestic hospitality sector establishment, but also as a key player like a restaurant, hotel, etc., a vehicle rental company, that you think about your purchasing decisions and you tailor-make your policies and procurement practices to support the domestic industry.
There's a voice that is calling, loudly calling, day by day, the voice of the future.
When I started my business, all I wanted was to create jobs and a legacy for the next generation, because I see opportunity when others see impossibility.
It all started with the thought and then a seed in the garden, which grew into my very own farm.
Mr. Mashimbia, sir, I do apologize to interject, but unfortunately we have not been able to see the presentation or the video. We are able to hear the audio, so we do apologize as well to our attendees who are here. So unfortunately we can't see it, but we can hear it. So I think what we can do, Mr. Mashimbia, is make a promise that we will be able to share the presentation and the video as well on a number of our platforms for our attendees to be able to see and to hear it. If you don't mind, sir, if I can please just call on you to maybe give a closing thought as you reflect on the hospitality industry.
Okay, so my closing thoughts is that we call on the establishments, like I said over and over again to my presentation, to consider having procurement practices that support the domestic manufacturing sector, but also we call on consumers to really start thinking about how they can use their hard-earned money, and we respect the fact that this hard-earned money to support the domestic hospitality industry, because ultimately the benefits accrue to our economy and to those that we know that will ultimately get employed in this industry. For anyone who wants to join Proudly South African, visit our website, proudlysa.co.za, follow us on all our social media platforms, and ensure that you become part of this movement, the buy local movement, and ultimately help us create much needed job opportunities for our people. Thank you very much.
Indeed. Mr. Eustace Mashimbia is the CEO of Proudly South African. Thank you very much, sir. And I think as you were speaking and outlining the ecosystem as well as the value chain of the furniture industry, one gets teleported into a different country, right? More so when you speak about access to markets for local businesses, where you just close your eyes and you imagine you're in a different country. You land at the airport and the Uber driver is a South African, you immediately feel safe. You go to a hotel and the hotel is either owned by a South African or is proudly a South African owned hotel, or the staff, some of the staff from there are South African. You immediately feel safe and you immediately feel pride when you speak about taking pride in what is made locally. And so that is what we are speaking about, from South Africa to Africa to the world. And thank you very much for outlining the purpose of Proudly South African, but also introducing this very important topic of the impact of the hospitality business on the local economy. As Mr. Mashimbia has outlined, there are a number of speakers that have been invited this morning that are going to give you some very colorful insights and perspectives that are different. And so we're going to be introducing our next speaker from FITHASA, that is Leanne Singer. She is the chairperson, and FITHASA is the Federated Hospitality Association of Southern Africa. And before, Leanne, you get an opportunity to speak, please note to our attendees more so that this is an interactive session. So we do welcome your questions and your comments at any time. You are welcome to engage with us on the Zoom chat box, so you can send your questions. We will be taking a Q&A session, a question and answer session, towards the end of the webinar, but also we're going to be doing it a little bit differently for Leanne's presentation, where we are going to be engaging with her. So if you do have questions, follow what it is that Leanne will be speaking about, and you can pop in your questions and she'll be able to answer them right now. But you can also send through your questions on any of our social media platforms. We are on Twitter, that is Proudly South Africa, Proudly SA, Instagram, proudly.sa, Facebook, Proudly South African. We are on LinkedIn and we are on YouTube. Without further ado, Leanne Singer is the chairperson of FITHASA. Leanne, if I can invite you this morning to please introduce yourself and your organization in terms of the work that you do, because no one knows it better than you. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. CEO Duduzela, thank you so much for inviting FITHASA to represent this morning. I am a chairperson of FITHASA in the Cape. So our region stretches from the Namibian border all the way through to Port Elizabeth. That's the region that we cover as FITHASA Cape. But FITHASA nationally covers the entire South Africa, and we do so proudly. And the FITHASA abbreviation stands for the Federated Hospitality Association of South Africa. And we are very proudly one of South Africa's oldest associations. Now, what is FITHASA's role? We are the official, recognized by government spokesbody for the hospitality industry. And if you can indulge me for a moment, the definition of hospitality is any plate of food that I eat, any bed that I sleep in outside of my home, right? Now, as consumers, if we're listening to me speaking as consumers, that looks different to all of us, right? And as business owners, that looks different to all of us. So if you can just bear in mind that hospitality, any plate of food you eat, any bed you sleep in outside of your home. Now, if we look at the definition of tourism, a few years ago, the definition of tourism was any place that I visit outside of my home for a radius of 50 kilometers. That is called tourism, right? Any place that I visit a 50-kilometer radius outside of my home. But due to the world we currently live in, the definition of tourism has recently changed, and that definition is now a 50-kilometer radius, right? Because we don't have to leave our homes to be tourists today. We don't have to leave our homes to interact with tourism products. We don't even have to leave our homes to interact with hospitality products. So with the changing world that we live in, the definition of life as we know it, as things that we assume to be part of our DNA, all of those rules are being rewritten and changing. And I want to ask you to, with that mindset, go into this presentation, into this session with me, and think of what the future could look like if we imagine the world presented by the CEO, where we're living in a thriving economy, where there is high employment, where there is high business ownership, and where we are making an effort to, through the majority of our purchasing, whether in our personal capacities or in our businesses, where we are supporting local businesses. So I'd like to start off by highlighting domestic tourism, which is all of us, right? Now, I myself, the FedHasa role that I occupy is a volunteer role, right? So I am doing this because I know that the quickest way for us to fight our massive and, in fact, tragic unemployment figures is through the tourism industry. It's not hard to start a business in tourism. The obstacles to entry is not huge. We spoke about manufacturing, our previous presenter, but you don't need to open a factory. You don't need to excavate a mine to have a role and to be part of the supply chain in tourism. So for me, it is very easy for us to bring about catalytic change in terms of job creation throughout the tourism industry. My day job, we're in the hotel and travel business ourselves. We have a restaurant. So I'm in a fortunate position where I'm able to straddle both worlds in terms of the public and the private sector. And the role that FedHasa plays is to represent the public sector to the private sector to the public sector. So we lobby with government about pressing matters that affect how we run our businesses. Because if we can run successful businesses within the tourism and hospitality industry, we're able to create jobs, right? We're able to employ more people. But along with this message comes a message of ownership within the tourism industry. So I said to myself a year ago that I'm never going to mention the dreaded C word ever on a panel or presentation ever, but you all know what I'm talking about, right? So during that dreaded C word, we were faced with the possibility of having to close. We had to close all our businesses' doors because all our businesses are within tourism and hospitality. And it was the local film industry, right? Domestic travel. It was the local film industry that saved me, that saved my life, and that saved the lives of the 350 people that I employed. So I'm going to give you some examples of how everything that our previous presenters discussed and all the things that we're discussing, I'm going to be using some local examples. And forgive me if they are predominantly Western Cape, because that is where I have my footprint and that's where I run my businesses. But all of these stories will be very relatable to you. So as you know, all hospitality businesses, all hotels had to close their doors, right? Our doors were shut. Now, if you're a restaurant owner or a business owner, you lock your doors at night, right? So even if you are in hospitality, if you have a restaurant, you lock your restaurant's doors at night. But hotel doors, or those of bed and breakfasts, or those of Airbnbs, I can ask my Southern Sun colleagues on the call, we hardly ever lock our doors, right? We don't lock, hotel doors don't lock, because we have to be available for our guests 24 hours to come and go as they need. But to actually lock up the front door of your hotel is a harrowing experience. So our hotels, we use the word mothballed. We had to lock up our hotel doors. And we were closed for quite a bit of time. And I had no answers for my team in terms of when we were going to be able to open our doors and bring them back to work. And it was a local TV production, Blood and Water, that allowed me to open my doors again. And it was through collaboration with local businesses and local communities that not only was my hotel able to open, but we didn't have enough rooms and enough kitchen space to house the entire crew, all the actors, that the hotel across the road also had to open their doors. And we went from our restaurant being a restaurant to shutting down the restaurant and turning it into a gym and a dance studio. And we were so happy to do it, right? Because we had to create a COVID bubble to keep this crew safe, so that they can go film to produce the content that they needed to stream to keep us entertained for those of us who were at home. So I want you to look at the incredible opportunity that lay in this crisis, right? And think of the supply chain of the people that were affected by this opportunity. We're looking at the film industry. We're looking at all the suppliers to the film industry. We're looking at the suppliers to our hotels, my hotel and the hotel across the road. Now, those suppliers, we could sit here the whole day and I can go through a list from A to Z, from 1 to 1,000, telling you about all the different suppliers and opportunities and procurement that lies in this ecosystem, right? But it is the hope and the promise that tourism, and particularly what I'm representing, hospitality holds, really is immeasurable. For every one international visitor that visits South Africa, for every seven tourists that visit South Africa, one permanent job is created, right? So when you're standing in a queue at your favorite shopping center, and there's a queue to the restaurant, or you're going to your favorite attraction and you're a bit begrudgingly standing in this queue because there's a whole lot of foreign visitors in this queue, right? Just always remind yourself that for each of these 7 people that I count in the queue in front of me, one permanent job is created. So we have to look and thank and encourage both our domestic tourists and our international tourists, because in my case, it was the domestic tourists, domestic industry, and particularly business corporate travel, which we call in our industry the MICE, which is for meetings, incentive, conferences, and events. The MICE industry, it was particularly that sector that ignited my business and allowed me to open my doors again. And it was the opportunity of collaboration with various businesses. You know, there's a well-known saying that says those at the bottom compete, those at the top collaborate, right? Now, it was very easy during the pandemic for the sharks to come out because we all had to fight and we all had bills to pay and we all had staff that we had to pay. It would have been very easy for us to try and keep the business ourselves, but they would have lost that contract and I would have lost that contract, right? And nobody would have won. So it was only through the power of collaboration that we were able to all bring our teams back to work and open our doors and start trading, and then start supplying, start having to procure again, bringing in food. We had laundry to wash, right? So our laundries could open again, our laundry suppliers, our staff transport service providers, they were back in the game. So it is such an incredible knock-on effect. I'd like to talk about about the role of business travel, and particularly the role of events, conferencing, sports events, concerts. Now, this is an invaluable opportunity for us to firstly ignite a proudly South African patriotic feeling. Secondly, this is an opportunity where we can really, you know, we all know what BEE stands for, but I like to use the word LEE, local economic empowerment, because this is where we fundamentally make a difference to the lives of people living in communities that are not necessarily within our main city centers. And if we can spread the love, if we can spread the tourism load, it is life-changing for people living in these communities. I want to use the example of a small town in the Western Cape along the West Coast. Now, there are many West Coasts around the world, right, guys? Practically every country that has an ocean has a West Coast. But in South Africa, their local tourism office have said we are the only Weskus in the world. So yes, they're a West Coast, but they are the only Weskus in the world. Now, that is damn proudly South African, right? Weskus. So along the Weskus in the Cape, there is a tiny town, tiny, called Titisbai. And this small fishermen's community, they really relied on fishing to keep this tiny community alive. And through the creation of an event called Jazz on the Rocks, it was a local radio DJ here in South Africa, in the Cape, who has a love for jazz, who has a love for local jazz, and he wanted to support local artists. He created an event called Jazz on the Rocks, which has been running for over 12 years. And there are businesses that started and that are thriving till this day. The only reason those businesses were born was because of the creation of Jazz on the Rocks. So I want you to look at, I'm not sure where our visitors are from on this call, but I want you to think of the town, if you're privileged enough to live in one of our beautiful towns in our country, to think of what type of events can I create in my local community, in my town, that'll bring tourists, that will bring local tourists, that will serve a purpose, a need, something that our local domestic market is looking for. Because if we start by focusing on our domestic tourism, we really are circulating the rand, and we're creating opportunities. You know, we like to throw around the word heritage, but I believe heritage is something that we have to take ownership of. And for me, heritage is created through tradition. So let's start building traditions in local communities, and that will build heritage, and that will tell the story of our heritage. So there is huge opportunities here. I've got a couple of examples of similar towns like Titi's Bay, where they had the Jazz Festival in Mossel Bay along the Garden Route. They were lucky enough to win the opportunity to host the Ironman. Now, Ironman is a massive economic spinner, right? The spend that comes with Ironman, those crazy sports people who can freaking swim, run, and do a cycle race one after the other. They are very, very, very strong, very fit athletes who spend and invest a lot of money in their sports equipment, in their training, and they are bringing that spend because they stay for an extended period of time. Many of them come and travel with their families, and the direct and indirect spend of events like that is incredible. It's said that I just want to pull up my stats here. It's said that for every $100 that is spent in a local community through events, there is indirect spend of $188, right? That's from 100 to 188 if it's an event where people come and spend, they stay for a longer period of time. And the beauty of repeat events is repeat visitors. If I have had an experience once, Cape Town Jazz, okay, that's a big epic event, right? But if you can find a community that has a particular interest and you are able to host and put them in touch with connecting with that emotion that they have with your event, they are going to come back year after year after year. And come and support your events. So, and you know, us as salespeople, it's all about repeat customers, right? Because I've sold to them once, they've bought from me once, so it's cheaper to sell to them again than to go and find a new lead. So I'd like you to really think outside the box of what big, small events I can create in my community. I'd then like to talk about entrepreneurship within the tourism industry and just about the procurement within the hospitality industry. And yes, we mentioned furniture. We know we've spoken about food. We've spoken about linen suppliers. But today, I believe that technology has leveled the playing field and given us far easier access to market. And to do business with the hospitality industry, you don't have to produce a good, right? There are so many other opportunities within the hospitality industry where you could run a very successful business yourself through the use of technology. And we can look at things like marketing, digital marketing, right? We can look at things like content creation. We can look at things like revenue management, distribution management. There are so many training for hospitality staff. There are so many endless opportunities where you can take whatever skills you have and bring it into the hospitality industry. You know, one point that I always raise when I'm in the company of hospitality colleagues is in the hotel industry and the hospitality industry, we harp on about hotel school, hotel school, hotel school. What skills are taught at hotel schools? Yes, that's very important, but the hospitality industry is a business like any other. You can take almost all qualifications out there, and we need your services within the hospitality industry. So don't think that I need to have a hotel school qualification to have a place in the hospitality industry. You don't. We need just about every skill set out there to allow our businesses to thrive and grow. To give an example of some successful case studies that have done phenomenally well, and this to me, whenever I quote this, my proudly South African heart beats really, really loudly. And that is a company called Guest Review. Now, Guest Review is an incredible tech tool that was born in the Eastern Cape. And it's an automatic review system. When I check out of a hotel, if I slept there, I automatically get a series of emails to tell me how my business performed. How was your reception? What was the quality of the room like? Were the team friendly? How was the food, etc., etc., etc. Right? It's an automated system because we want that feedback because it allows us to improve our standards. And Guest Review, a local business started in the Eastern Cape, is rated as one of the world's most successful automated guest review platforms in the world within the hospitality industry, right? And this is a pretty small Eastern Cape business that started this, and they rated as one of the highest in the world, one of the best in the world in terms of user experience. There's a business called CallPay. It's an online payment gateway. A local, proudly South African business, where when they did a hospitality survey in terms of payment gateways across the world, they surveyed 200 international payment gateways, and CallPay came out as one of the tops because of the UX experience, right? Maybe not in terms of turnover, because we can't compare with those big international guys like Stripe. But in terms of user experience, CallPay came out as one of the tops. Again, a proudly South African business. And I'm giving you these examples to demonstrate the opportunities that lie within the hospitality industry. Let's look at a company like Stokvel, right? So Stokvels, that is a proudly South African, is the invention the right word? Tradition, a heritage even, Stokvel. But Stokvel is an app that automated the entire stokvel management process. And they are in the tourism industry, right? So I'm hoping that, it's such a pity that I can't see all your faces, but I'm picturing and hoping that you have these light bulbs over your head that's just ignited some ideas that you could implement in how you are currently running your businesses. So if we touched on skills, but I want to encourage you to look at the skill set that you have. I've been around forever. I got my education in the early 90s. And if I think of even growing up as a child, where I had the privilege, growing up as a white South African in the 90s, I had a library in my community, right? So I had to get on my bicycle and ride on my bicycle to go access information at the library. I know now a lot of us still this day don't have libraries. But today, the youth have no excuse to access information, right? All of you, my children, they can sit for hours watching TikTok reels, watching YouTube shorts. But what are you doing? What content are you engaging with to upskill yourself, to empower yourself, to be able to make a difference in your career, in your business, and to stand out? The opportunities for learning is endless, and a lot of it comes at no cost. So I don't suffer fools lightly when people tell me they don't have access to training, because there are endless resources that don't have to cost a lot of money to train. Then people will say to me, yes, but I don't have experience, right? Volunteerism, guys. Volunteerism is huge in terms of adding credibility to your CV and adding credibility to your skill set. And it says a lot about someone who is willing to go out there and work in their community as a volunteer. It says a lot about that person's nature. And I'd love to have that person in my employ, right? Because they are taking their personal private time to invest back into a community. So think of opportunities that match your skill set, that match the learnings that you want to do, where you want to enhance your CV, and get out in that community and go volunteer. There is such a huge amount of need out there. And each one of us has a gift to give. Every single person on this planet has a gift to give that somebody else needs. So I want to encourage you to volunteer. It's tragic that there is such massive unemployment out there, right? But imagine if we can encourage that youth to go out there and volunteer, what our society could look like. Society will look completely different. So volunteerism is very, very dear to my heart. And then I want to touch on the role of associations like FedHasa, like SATSA, like SA Tourism, like the Tourism Business Council, like your regional tourism offices. These are institutions that have been set up to support businesses, that are set up to support communities. So go and connect with your associations and see how you can play a part there, because we all have the same goal, right? And that is to uplift the hospitality industry. I just want to end off by saying a good city to live in is a good city to visit, right? And we've discussed, our CEO discussed and I've discussed on what the future could look like through supporting local businesses. But if we can create successful cities, successful communities, those are communities that our visitors, both locally and internationally, would like to visit. So thank you very much for your time. And I'd love to have some comments or questions from our audience.
Leanne, thank you so much for that insightful presentation. I think we're going to have to wait right up until the end, if you don't mind, and do indulge us, please, for some of the contributions and the questions that we'll take from our participants. And it's the takeaway, I think, for me, the key takeaway, that what I've heard from you and what I've heard you say is that if you want to, is it not be rich, but rather be sustainable, find a problem to solve. Just like Jazz on the Rocks, a simple yet powerful concept that has stayed. And thank you very much for outlining the technology also that participants can actually delve into, the likes of Core Play and Stockfella, in order to take a look at how to move and propel themselves forward as well. And so we also want to hear about that public-private sector engagement, as you as a business actually have with the public sector as well. But we'll wait until the end for contributions from our participants. We are getting some of your questions. Please do keep them coming in. Leanne Singer is the chairperson of FedHasa Cape. Thank you very much, Leanne, for your contribution. We now take a look at Southern Sun Hotel Group. You would have heard the CEO, Mr. Eustace Masimbia, mention the Southern Sun Hotel Group, the hospitality ecosystem and its impact to the local business. That's what Southern Sun will be talking to us about today. And for that, we're going to be asking Candy Tothill, Head of Marketing at Southern Sun Hotel Group, to speak to us about that. And firstly, Candy, to please introduce yourself and your organization and what it is that you do. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on the webinar this morning. It really is such a pleasure to connect with our audience and to join the proudly South African colleagues, and to see everyone up bright and early on this. I'm coming to you from Cape Town, very, very cold and chilly and wet Western Cape this morning. So good morning. I wanted to share a presentation. I just wanted to check with you if that is still possible. Could you give me a sense that might work?
Yes, please.
Okay, super. So I'm going to be talking to you a little bit today about Southern Sun, firstly, and using Southern Sun as an opportunity to express how one can go from a relatively small, humble beginning over a 50-year period to create what we refer to at the company as the leading hospitality group in Southern Africa. So I want to take you through that. We are a proudly South African company, and born and I guess imagined, created by a South African many years ago in 1969. And our company was started by someone who being in the hospitality industry, I suspect a lot of our audience members are in the hospitality industry, running your own businesses or working for other organizations in our industry. So you'll all be familiar with Saul Kersner, who is really known for destinations like Sun City, but who actually started, as I say, way back in 1969 with a hotel called the Beverly Hills Hotel in KZN. And he was a young guy of 26 or 27 years old, He started with a dream. A lot of people, thought he was crazy, but he had a dream, and he had the belief that he could make this dream come true. And all these years later, I will take you through a little bit of the background, but all these years later, two giants in the industry have emerged as a result of one person's dream. And that is really something I find extraordinary inspiration in. And the two giants that I refer to are Sun International, who you'll all know, as I say, from Sun City, from Grand West in the Western Cape, and various other establishments around South Africa, and the other being Southern Sun, who I represent. And both companies went on to become giants in the industry. So I guess my message here is to say, if you have a dream, just bear in mind that, sure, we can't all produce these sorts of giants, and certainly it's not necessary for all of us to create something that becomes that large, but we can all be successful with our dreams, with the right partners, with understanding our industry, understanding our business, engaging with our ecosystems in the appropriate manner, and becoming a role player and a good corporate citizen. And no matter how small your business is, I think what's important to realize is that you're never too small to make a contribution to your community or to be a partner with a fellow business in the community or a fellow organization. So that's really my message for this morning. As I said, I'm going to take you through a very short presentation. I do have a couple of videos, so hopefully those will play. But if not, I do have quite a fair amount of content that I want to share with you in any case. So if you could tell me when my screen is sharing.
Your screen is sharing, Candy.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to be talking to you about what we refer to at Southern Sun as following the sun. I'm going to take you on a journey through our various key touch points of our organization. And I invite you to escape to our world and to follow the sun with me. I'm going to start off with a video.
Candy, unfortunately, we're not able to get the audio, please. We can see the video, but not the audio.
Okay. Do you have an IT person that could assist there?
We sure do.
Thanks.
Candy, if you don't mind, as we sort that out, to please take us through another part of your presentation, just as we get this sorted with IT in the background, please. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, will do. Can everyone still see me on the screen?
We can still see you.
Great. Okay, super. All right. So hopefully we'll be able to have a look at that video if we get the sharing sorted out just now. But in the meantime, I'm going to go through the next part of my presentation, which, as I say, is to share with you a little bit about Southern Sun. Just bear with me while I sort that part out. It's always a technical issue that causes the problem at the end of the day, but let's just let this run through. Sorry, I'm just going to try and navigate past this. All right, there we go. So as I said, we are the leading hotel group in Southern Africa. And with that being said, a few key points about our organization are that we have over 90 hotels and resorts. These are located in South Africa, in all provinces, as well as in Africa, in various countries in Africa, as well as in the Middle East. And also in the Seychelles. In the Seychelles, we have a beautiful hotel called Paradise Sun, which is located on an island called Pralin. So a lot of people refer to Southern Sun just thinking that we are our Southern Sun hotels. What they don't know is that actually we have over 16,000 rooms from luxury all the way through to the economy segment. So we are an extensive organization with some proud brands that, as I say, go back to as far back as the Beverly Hills Hotel, which, as I said, was opened in 1969. On the screen, you'll see how we segment our brands, and what's very important within the hospitality industry, as I'm sure most of you will be aware, especially in the hotel industry, is identifying your key markets and then ensuring that your brand is constructed in such a way as to service those markets that you've identified. So our business is divided into 4 key markets, and we service the luxury market, the full service market, and the economy market, as well as world-class conventions. And there you'll see at the bottom of the screen our world-class convention center, which competes with world-class convention centers all over the world, is the Sandton Convention Center, the biggest convention center in South Africa. Then we have our economy brand, which is represented by our Stay Easy hotels, as well as our Sun One hotels. Then our full service brand, which is represented by well-known hotel collections. These are Southern Sun hotels, Southern Sun resorts. Just going back to Southern Sun hotels, our flagship Southern Sun hotel is the Cullinan Hotel in Cape Town, in the mother city. We have Southern Sun hotels all around South Africa, as well as in different African countries. And then we have Southern Sun resorts, which are all set in idyllic settings. Some of our resorts include the Beacon Island Hotel, the Drakensberg Sun, the Sabi River Sun, etc. And these are all destination hotels where people come for domestic leisure. They also have a time-sharing component, which is also a very exciting part of the hospitality industry. And then we have our Sun Square hotels, which are kind of a vibey, trendy take on your around about your 4-star segment hotel. And then we have our luxury hotels, and you'll see here that our luxury hotels all have their own brands. So it's very important, if you're running a hotel or any other business, to ensure that your brand has got a very distinctive personality, and that it stands out to your customers that you've identified and to your intended market. So here you'll see that our luxury brands all have their own logo, they all have their own brand personality, and they all operate within a particular carefully identified market, appealing, as I say, to the luxury segment. So that's our brand portfolio in a nutshell. Then we have, as far as scale goes, we refer to ourselves as having footprint and scale. And you'll see we've constructed all of our key metrics into the continent of Africa. And that is because of our footprint, and we do have a footprint in Africa and particularly in South Africa. And part of our footprint includes that we have over 300 conference venues and banqueting facilities. And we also offer a variety of restaurants and bars. So when we have hotel guests, obviously those guests form a significant part of our customer base. But we also have a variety of very attractive restaurants and bars that have their own names and their own identities, and they attract people who do not stay in our hotels necessarily, but are joining our restaurants for lunch or dinner or celebrations or business meetings, etc. So we have a very large F&B component of our business. Then as far as the next part of our business is concerned, and as we go down in our stakeholder list, you'll see here that on the screen, we've got a very key component of our business, and part of our strategy is our citizenship. So citizenship is where the ecosystem for us then begins to extend outwards beyond the business and the customer. And that is where we focus on community development, entrepreneur development, and environmental education. So part of our environmental presence and the way we manage our responsible tourism involves what we refer to as environmental education. And what that means is that we take our role in the environment very seriously. We understand that while we are operating within the hospitality industry and we have kind of what we refer to as a low impact, we also have the responsibility to educate the community in which we are situated about their impact on the environment. So that's where we take our responsibility out into the community, and we work with various partners in order to help the community to take responsibility for their impact on the environment, because every single person on the planet, not only companies, but every single person on Earth has got a responsibility to manage their impact on the environment. And what do I mean by impact on the environment? I'm referring to your impact when it comes to how you make decisions about what you buy, what you purchase, how you discard what you use, in the sense of waste. What do you do with your waste? And then how you consume electricity, what happens to your water, how much water do you use, do you have taps that leak, etc. And all of that comes together and forms what we refer to as your environmental footprint. So as a company and as a group, all of our hotels have got various measures in place to manage our environmental footprint. We also talk to our employees, which are another stakeholder in addition to our customers, about our environmental footprint. And then we go out and we talk to the community, as I said, with partners who are able to engage with the community and say, please consider what you are doing with your waste so that we can all work together and make sure that we manage our impact on the environment so that we can conserve our environment for future generations. So things like cleanups, like community cleanups, these are really, really easy to do. As a hospitality business operating within the tourism sector, we rely on tourism to stay in our hotels, to visit our beautiful country. So a big part of tourism is how we look after our environment, and how that extends to making sure that we look after the areas surrounding our hotels, that we go and do beach cleanups, that we do urban cleanups, that we participate with dialogue with municipalities, that we have in place intelligent waste management systems that help us manage how much waste we are sending we are sending to things like municipal dumps and so on and so forth. So the environment is a very big part of our citizenship as a group, and all of that comes together. You can imagine the size of our environmental impact when you put all of these 90 hotels and resorts together with our 300 conference and banqueting facilities, as well as our 5,500 staff members. You can imagine the scale of our environmental impact. So it is essential, as far as our strategy goes, that we manage that environmental impact. And that is a big part of our business ecosystem. So when we're talking about business ecosystem, we start with our stakeholders, and we examine who are our stakeholders. And then what we do is we say, well, how do we manage the different aspects of our business and our engagement with these stakeholders? And how do we measure what the results of our impact are? So environmental impact forms a big part of our citizenship. Then a big one, which you guys will be interested in, is entrepreneurial development. And that's the second pillar within our citizenship focus in our ecosystem. And that, just to take you back a little way, about 4.5 years ago now, going back to 2020, pre-COVID, and Leanne spoke a lot about what happened to our industry during COVID, so I won't go over that again. And I'm sure most of you were affected by it if you were operating in the tourism and hospitality industry. But one of the casualties of our citizenship programs was our entrepreneur program. And many of you will remember the Sogosan entrepreneur program that we used to run. Prior to that, it was called Book a Guest House. And that was an unfortunate consequence of COVID, was that program, as we had built it, had to be sunset. So we no longer run those programs. But what has now emerged in the last year to 18 months is a kind of a new way of looking at the way we contribute to entrepreneurial development, as well as small business support as a big business. And what we have invested in is, first of all, we've renamed our program. It's called Southern Sun Entrepreneurs. You'll still be able to find that on Facebook. And we do have various aspects of that in place. We intend to try to deliver additional development opportunities via the Southern Sun Entrepreneurs in the next 12 months. But what is currently in place there is that we use our partnership with Proudly South African, which is extremely important to us as part of our entrepreneur support in the sense of an ecosystem. And we are the hosts of the Buy Local Summit, which you will all have, I hope, have participated in this year at the Sandton Convention Center. So that is our kind of flagship effort that we make at the moment with entrepreneurial development. The second part of what we do there is that we are, one of our major shareholders is an organization called HCI, which is also a listed entity, a financial investment company on the stock exchange. And they run a wonderful program called the HCI Supplier Club. Now, the HCI Supplier Club runs a very, very cool series of documentaries on ETV, and that is called the Legacy Series. And some of you on the call, I hope some of you are on the call, will have been featured in the Legacy Series. And that is also partnered, we're a partner of that program. What that does is it features small businesses who are part of the HCI Supplier Club and gives you the equivalent of a 1.5 minute commercial on TV, which is really obviously access to market. Normally that's very expensive to do. And that is one of the benefits offered by the HCI Supplier Club. So that is what Southern Sun also partners with as far as our entrepreneur development and our efforts to reach out from a big business to a small business in support of the growth of this particular industry, being tourism and hospitality. Incidentally, our efforts in entrepreneurial development extend throughout our supply chain. So Leanne spent some time unpacking the supply chain for us earlier on. And our entrepreneur development program actually supports a lot of the small businesses. We determine those small businesses as EMEs or QSCs in line with our level, at least our BBBE framework. And those are the businesses that we support. So before I move on from entrepreneur development, I'd like to invite you, if you haven't heard of the HCI Supplier Club, I'd like to invite you to send us an email at hcisupplierclub@southernsun.com, and we will send you an application form. You can apply to join the club, and we'd be very happy to consider your business as a member of the club going forward. You do not need to be a supplier to Southern Sun to join the club. We have two parts of the club. One is that you can be a supplier already and become a member of the club. The other one is that you can be what we call a promising supplier. And those are organizations who are at least 51% Black-owned businesses. They can be operating in any industry in South Africa. They need to be a South African business, and they need to have a turnover of less than 50 million rand a year in order to qualify to become a member of the club. And we are just about, it's a really exciting time to join the club because we're just about to launch our brand new website. Our website will have what we call a trade hub and a learn hub. And members of the club will have access to the Learn Hub, which will have various webinars, training material, business how-tos, really, really cool stuff for learning and assistance in running your business. And then the Trade Hub, as the name suggests, will list your business on this website, and you will be connected with other big businesses who will be searching, they'll be using this website as a directory in order to source pre-vetted suppliers. So we think this is really going to go a long way to supporting various businesses, and that's why Southern Sun has joined this initiative as a partner. And anybody is welcome, as I say, to send an email if you want more information. Otherwise, there is also a Facebook page for the HCI Supplier Club, so you're also welcome to take a look at the Facebook page, follow along, and you can get the details there. And then the last part of our citizenship is our community development. And our community development, we actually refer to as caring across communities. Caring across communities constitutes health, welfare, education, and environment. So the environmental development aspect also comes into our community development. And that's where we do things like volunteer for what's coming up tomorrow is Mandela Day. And as I speak to you, we've got a huge amount of volunteers already out today ahead of Mandela Day. We encourage our staff. We have a program called the Southern Sun Volunteers, and we encourage our staff every year to go out in their numbers across South Africa, and the Middle East and the Seychelles, and to do their bit for their communities. So we divide our community efforts into 3 tiers, and the 3 tiers are local community development, where our hotels get involved in local initiatives where they're situated, national initiatives where our hotels provincial initiatives where our hotels all come together in the provinces where they're situated and volunteer in large scales like we do for Mandela Day, and then national initiatives. One of our national initiatives, just as an example, is the Rise Against Hunger initiative. And currently we're working with Rise Against Hunger. We also host them at the Sandton Convention Centre, and there we do meal packing for early childhood development centres around South Africa. So this year, just to give you a sense of the scale of our community development, we supported 247 different nonprofit organizations around South Africa, particularly. And the value of our investment was around about 12 million rand. So we really feel that in order for our business to thrive, we need to ensure that our business is operating in a healthy society. And that's how we see the ecosystem that we are a major role player in. And then another aspect of our group, and I guess a testament to everything I've been talking about, is that we are a level 1 BE contributor in South Africa. This is something we've been particularly proud of, because it goes to our heritage, it goes to our history, it goes to the legacy that we're trying to create. Our efforts in Triple BE are not about ticking boxes on a scorecard. They are, in fact, the essence of our culture, all the way from ownership, where we have a 60% Black ownership shareholding, and all the way through to socioeconomic development. We kind of feel that our Triple BE status evidences the spirit with which we approach diversity in South Africa. And then lastly, we are also the preferred accommodation partner to South Africa's leading sports teams. And I'm not sure whether we have our sound on or whether I can play you a video, but if not, it's okay. You can watch it on our social media platforms. But we are very proudly one of the sports teams for whom we are a major partner is our Springbok rugby team, and we have a lovely payoff line here, and that is "Stay where your heroes stay." And on that note, I conclude my presentation, and I thank you for listening.
Stay where your heroes stay. Candy, thank you very much for that insightful presentation. Candy Tothill is the head of marketing at Southern Sun Hotel Group. And Candy, as you mentioned, to ensure that your brand has a distinctive personality, you mentioned that it's kind of cold in Cape Town and the weather's not all the way there. We could see the sun following you because throughout your presentation, the sun kept on going with you. So speak of a brand making sure that it has a distinctive personality. We've also witnessed that today with a footprint in the African continent as well. Thank you very much, Candy, for that presentation. And for our participants, those resources, once again, Southern Sun Entrepreneurs. And Candy, the HCI Suppliers Club, that email address, if you could please share it again, HCI Suppliers Club at Southern Sun, is it .com or .co.za?
It's .com and it's supplier in singular. So it's HCI Supplier Club.
HCI Supplier Club at southernsun.com. So those are the resources that you can also use for our participants. And please do keep the questions coming in the Q&A box on our Zoom platform. Candy Tothill, once again, is the head of marketing at Southern Sun. It's time now for us to introduce our next speaker. And our next speaker, if we can just do a bit of a trivia, right? So which street in the entire world has two Nobel Peace Prize laureates? And the answer is, ladies and gentlemen, Vilakazi Street in Soweto, and that will be Nelson Mandela as well as Desmond Tutu. And that is where one of his establishments is the Sakumzi restaurant. And it is a great pleasure to introduce to you this morning, ladies and gentlemen, Sakumzi restaurants, Sakumzi Makubela, the founder of the restaurants, to speak on the economic and social benefits of local restaurants, the hospitality development, rather. Mr. Makubela, it's over to you, sir. Very good morning to you.
Good morning, Tutu, and thank you for inviting me, and good morning to your audience today. Yes, my name is Sakumzi Makubela from Sakumzi Restaurant in the famous Vilakazi Street. We've been operating there. We are the same age as Proudly South African. We started 2001. And yes, as the previous speakers have been saying, talking about Stokvel, talking about how important Proudly South African is playing their role, that we need to work together, business and corporate and the locals. What Proudly South African is doing is really making a difference in the country. For us, as Sakumzi Restaurant, we started when the former president, Nelson Mandela, said, people must stop complaining about the unemployment of South Africa. People must stop complaining that crime is high in the country. The former statement asked, what is it that you are doing in your own little corner to curb crime? Instead of complaining that ever since there's black government that has been in power and things are going bad, he asked, what is it that you are doing in your own capacity? That's when I was touched, and I was employed with First National Bank, working in their IT department, fixing computers and ATMs. So I had a nice job where I had to sit at home, do nothing the whole day, the whole week. But I thought very much about what the president has said. What is it that I can do in my little corner? That's when I started thinking, I'm always hanging around with my friends in this corner. We always having drinks, beer. We go and buy KFC, chicken licking. End of the day, we are not playing any role. We are one of those South Africans who like complaining and moaning. That's when I decided 2001 with 4 people, let me start running a restaurant, because I've got friends who are already visiting me every day. As I was working for an IT company, I never had to go to work. I had to fix computers or ATMs remotely, unless there's something that I need to change. So 2001, we started with Sakumzi with 4 people. Before COVID-19, we had 110. We had other restaurants that are following us in Vilakazi Street. That is why I can say indirect jobs we have created is more than 1,000 people in Vilakazi Street. Other people are selling craft. So there is an economic social benefit by us starting Sakumzi in this famous street, capitalizing that we're in the famous Vilakazi Street where the first victim, Hector Peterson, was shot, and up the road is where it used to be Mandela's house. Now it's a museum. We are next door, the Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Today, we've got Sakumzi Pefeni up the road that also do a lot of locals. They come there for meetings. We've got now Sakumzi Zulek for the last 3 months, where it used to be Moyos Zulek. We do a lot of events there, mostly functions. Already December, we are fully booked. So yes, if we can have your small business and big business working together and having proudly South African emphasizing, pushing these big corporate companies that if they assist a small business, it's not like competition. We are where we are because of people like your Southern Sun. When they adopted the BNB, they assisted them with training so that they can be able to create jobs. We are where we are with your SAP when they took us for 2 weeks to teach us what is business, to make us understand what is admin, what is finance, what is HR. In that 2 weeks, I got to learn a lot. And from 2003, 4, 5, my business started growing. So we are happy to be associated with Proudly South African, and we would be happy even if they can increase their annual fees so that they can be able to push on these big corporate companies that for South Africa to work, we have a beautiful country with beautiful people. But for crime to go down, we need small business to keep on creating jobs. If people are unemployed, if people don't have a purpose, that is why this country keeps on going backwards and will keep on not understanding, saying it's the politicians, it's the government. The government has nothing to do with this country going down. We need business. People who are able to employ numbers and numbers is big business. So if big business, they are teaching small business how to run businesses, we will be able to create more jobs for our people. And we will be able to train people because we know our quality of education is not good here. So if the government cannot train the people, it's us as business and big business to be able to keep on training people so that they can be able to serve our clients. I will stop there. Thank you.
Mr. Makubela, sir, thank you very much for sharing your journey with us. Indeed, it would sound as if part of the secret to success is learning the building blocks of your business, as you speak about the training that you had to go through for some 2 weeks, where you learned how to run your business effectively and efficiently. And also speaking about the economic social benefits of small businesses and thriving in your community and where you are. Thank you very much for sharing with us and reiterating in 2024 that indeed it starts with you. What can I do to contribute in changing the situation and changing what is around me? Thank you very much, sir, for that very insightful contribution in terms of your journey to success as well. And we do hope that some of our participants have learned quite a bit in terms of sustainability and the building blocks of building your business and making it sustainable. And that we thank you, Mr. Makubela. Sakumzi Makubela is founder of Sakumzi Restaurant restaurant in Vilakazi Street in Soweto. Our next speaker is Soweto Hotel General Manager Dineo Sitsetse, who's going to be speaking to us rather about how local businesses benefit from local sourcing, which is something that we have heard in terms of the speakers that have outlined the different value chains of the hospitality industry throughout the course of the morning. And Mr. Dineo, if you could please introduce yourself to our attendees and let us know as well what it is that your business does. Good morning, ma'am. Okay.
Good morning, proudly SA. Good morning, proudly SA. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I've got serious network issues. Please, if you don't hear me, just do that. Then I'll know that you can't hear me. Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm most grateful, and it's actually very humbling to be able to come and engage and share what we have to share with everybody who's on here. My name is Dineo Sitsetse. I'm the general manager of the Soweto Hotel. It is a 4-star hotel at the Square of Dedication. It's a heritage monument. Well, supposed to be, but if you look at it now, the monument is bleeding because of crime and all of that stuff. But anyway, I'm here to talk about the hotel. Leanne, I know you know I share the same sentiment with you about the C word, but sometimes once in a while one has to go back there and revisit and talk about that C word, which is COVID-19. You know, when COVID-19 hit, before COVID-19, we were doing business like the hotels everywhere else, at your Randburgs, at your Sandton, and all of that stuff. But what I always say is that there's always good in every evil. And the good that came out of COVID-19 for our business was that it forced us to relook at our business model. You know, had that not happened, we would not be in a position that we're in, where we are able now to actually engage local suppliers. You know, we were not participating in the local economy, the township economy. So now we are actually participating actively in the township economy. I'll get back to that in a bit. I just want to talk about the hotel a little bit. You know, there's been talks that we've closed. People think, are you still open? We're very much open. We only closed during COVID, and we've been open ever since. We've been keeping up a good big fight.
Okay, Mr. Zeze, it's time we do the wave as the network is intermittent and the connection is intermittent. If you could please, Mr. Zeze, if you can hear me, the connection, we're doing our wave to communicate that the connection is intermittent. If you could please just pick up your thought in terms of—
remain open and we trade. The best thing about where we are located.
Ah, there we find each other.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
All right. If you could please pick up, no worries. If you could please pick up your thought and start over for us when you speak of actively participating, because we lost you. The connection was intermittent, please.
All right. So as I was saying is that, you know, because of COVID, it forced us to relook at our business model.
Ms. Zeze, unfortunately, again, we have lost our connection to you. It's intermittent. May I ask you, please, Ms. Zeze, it's going to take a while. And to our participants, thank you very much for your indulgence. We are having intermittent connection issues. Ms. Zeze, you did mention that the connection is not so strong. If you can hear me, would it be possible for you to maybe switch off your camera and we just keep the audio and we try and hear if that could work for us?
Yes, please. That actually works better for me. Okay, can you hear me now? Is it better?
Loud
I
and
switched
clear,
off the
ma'am.
camera.
Loud and
Can
clear,
you hear me
ma'am. Thank
now?
you very much. Yes, please.
Oh no, this is bad. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can
Okay.
hear you.
All right. Keep it brief because of the network. Okay. All right. As I was saying, the hotel is very much in that the hotel is not operating. We are operating. We are putting up a big fight as the only hotel in the township in Soweto. What we're doing is we are sourcing our products, talking about the business model that we had to relook at. We stopped sourcing our products, food, supplies, you name it. We stopped sourcing those from big business. We brought it back home. You know, the one good thing about our location is that we can also be very contemporary and really, you know, freestyle. We freestyle like everybody else because we're in the township, which actually goes down very well, particularly for international visitors. So what we do is we buy our food, meat from our local suppliers. There's a lady who sells beautiful meat, better than, you know, it's actually a plus grade. You know, right here in the township, we buy from our manufacturers, cleaning materials, we buy from our manufacturers. We are in partnership with the city of Joe, where we buy our sauces and you know, right through across the board. And what we've also done is, as the township establishments, we formed a forum, which we call STAY. So Soweto Township Accommodation Establishments. That's what we call ourselves. That is the hotel and all B&Bs and guest houses within Soweto, because we needed to understand how many beds do we have within the Soweto Township, so that we can go after these big events and, you know, submit at the, particularly at the MICE office, as indicated by Leanne. So that also then assists, we encourage one another as STAY to source, to buy from our local suppliers. You know, that one person who is manufacturing jam, we make sure that every single one of us, we buy from that person, and it's going down very well. Let me tell you something. When we came out of COVID, my debtors were insane. But from stopping to buy from big business and actually sourcing all our products locally, my creditors ledger has gone down by 70%, because your costs are down, your transport costs are down, and all of that stuff, all those unnecessary add-ons, they are subtracted from the transaction, which is actually something it's so refreshing, because then it helps us keep our overheads low, and the business keeps going as well. Now, what we've also done is we decided that, you know what, we're going to work a lot with interns. So we take interns on and we work with them, and we rotate them. We don't keep them for too long, because our interns also, they are a challenge, they are a frustration, but hey, they need an opportunity to get into the industry from these various schools. Those people can drive you up the wall. They will teach you how to drink whiskey, even if you don't know it. However, fault cannot be really put squarely on them. For us as STAY, because we discussed this at this forum, is if somebody doesn't have hospitality background, they will not have passion for hospitality and tourism. So how are we expecting that very person to teach people, young ones, about hospitality and tourism? Oh, there goes the internet again.
We can hear you, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can you hear
ma'am.
me?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
all right. Thank you. All right, thank you. So how do we expect someone like that to teach because hospitality is about passion, it's about drive, it's long hours, you know, it's fun at the same time. You know, there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. But when these interns come and you want to give them an opportunity, you find that they are told from school you're gonna work Monday to Friday. You report at 8 o'clock, 4 o'clock you go home, you have 1 hour lunch, and then you don't work Saturday and Sunday. Public holidays, you don't work. Come Heritage Day, you must go and wear your dukes and everything else there, Kozulek, which is very sad, because that what I always say to our interns is that is when we actually report for duty. That is actually when we report for duty, when it's holidays and all of that stuff. If it's your birthday, you can't decide now, you are going to want to go and sit at Vilagazi Street if the whole day and party up a storm with your friends because it's your birthday. You must come and work, even if it's your birthday. So it's a challenge, big challenge for hospitality, because we are not able to train, to give these people work integrated learning, which mentality that what do they call it? That they glow into them, that this is a corporate environment, 8 to 5 environment, you know. So that is a big problem. There's a big challenge that we have. Another thing which we find with our agro processors, we want to really assist them. We want to partner with them on a larger scale. However, their pricing model is very distorted. So this is where I'm now going to challenge you, the CEO, to say, can we please find
Okay, just as we thought we were cruising nicely, the gremlins in the airspace of the internet world, or the cables, have entered into our systems. It would appear that now we have lost
trying to assist them.
Okay,
to bank.
here we are.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm
Can
going to
you hear me?
wave as we had promised that this is our sign of an SOS.
Okay. All right.
Mr. If you
I'm
could
here.
please pick up from your challenge. You were posing a challenge to the CEO of Proudly South African, and that's where we lost
please. Okay, thank you so much. My challenge, the challenge that I'm posing to the CEO is that, please, can we do something about these agro processors? We need to assist them. We need to teach them how to benchmark themselves when it comes to pricing, because they do what I call emotional pricing. You know, I cannot continue to support them when what I get, if I get a bottle of mayonnaise from ShopRite at say 30 Rand, and then they want to sell it to me at 50 Rand, it doesn't make sense. I would rather than go back to ShopRite, even if I really didn't want to, you know. So that is a problem. That is a problem. So please, if we can assist our agro processors, I'm availing myself to say I will assist to facilitate that marriage. To say, please, let us help these people. They're doing fantastic work on the ground, because we need to buy even uniforms. We need to buy uniforms locally. We want to buy platters and things. I don't want to go to the big business to go and buy these things. When I walk into these big shops, because I can't get some of these things here around Soweto, I become so frustrated. I walk in there absolutely angry, you know, because I really don't want to leave my money there. So because we want to push township economy, there's a lot that's going on around township economy. So please, if we can assist one another that way, it will be amazing. And then in closing, I just want to say, you know what, when it comes to training, please, can we not just do training? You know, there's a lot of training that's going on, and we call it also skills development. That's another word we give it, skills development. But you know, for me, and this is from the experience that we've had, we continue to have, is that you can put people in a room and they sit there, they listen to you for four hours, and then they have lunch, and then they go home. But there's never follow-ups. There's hardly ever follow-ups to see and to ascertain that these people have learned something. They've taken something away, and they're actually implementing it in their businesses. Because of the network issues, I'm going to cut my presentation at this point. I'm going to cut it at this point. Thank you so much, Chair, for the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that insightful presentation. Intermittent connection also allowing, and just to our attendees and to our panelists, thank you very much for your grace and for your patience throughout the course of the morning, as we do understand that some of the presentations you were not able to see. rest assured, you will be getting copies of those presentations because we will email it to you. We do have your email addresses, and so you'll get those presentations and they will be shared via email. Thank you very much to each and every single one of our panelists for contributing to this very important conversation on the importance of the hospitality business on the local economy. And here's just a summary of what we have heard, right, in terms of the key takeaways, for me at least, in terms of having passion, drive, and fun as well. It's not just about that, because you have to ask yourself, what is it that I can do to change the situation around me? Ensuring that your brand has a distinctive personality. We've also heard about the importance of public and private partnerships, and also making sure you ask yourself, what is it that you can give? What problem can you solve? What problem are you seeing in your community? We heard about Jazz on the Rocks, a very simple but powerful concept that has lived beyond the initial phase of thinking. We've also heard about the importance of localization, the importance of creating an ecosystem that is valuable to South Africans when we speak about creating jobs as well in the country, but also making sure that those jobs are sustainable. When you teleport yourself to a different country, wherever it is, from that Uber driver that you're going to be interacting with, once they're South African, how does that make you feel? Once you realize they're South African, that hotel that you visit, the chair that you sit on while you're waiting to be attended to, as we heard about the furniture industry from the CEO of Proudly South African, Mr. Eustace Mashimbia. How does it make you feel when you see that circle with that tick that says Proudly South African? When you see the South African flag, how does it make you feel? If it gives you pride, then you know that there's only one way to take South Africa forward and to propel ourselves, and that is for us to be patriotic, which is the overall, achievement that we can actually go for as a nation, as a country, as we look forward to stimulate growth in the economy and to create jobs. I'd like now for us to get into the next session of our program, which is towards the tail end of our program, and that is, of course, the question and answer session, where you have been patiently listening to our panelists, and it's time for you to contribute. And we go to some of your questions, and a question has come through where someone is asking, an anonymous, I beg your pardon, is asking about the importance of localization and what exactly is localization. And that question is directed to the CEO of Proudly South African, Mr. Eustace Mashimbia. If you'd like to take this, sir.
So localization, I mean, if my understanding of the question is correct, Daniel, you'll help me, it's really about what is localization and what is the importance thereof. I mean, in economies where industrialization has resulted in industries being set up, whether they produce, FMCG products, automotive products, clothing and textile. So in industries like that, where that which is consumed by society is made in that specific country, localization then calls for, one, increasing support for those industries so that you are able to get those industries to grow such that more and more people can be absorbed into those jobs. And two, to ensure that possibilities are always there for new industries and new entrants to come in. And a good example of a need for localization based on what we are spending and what we are investing a lot of our money on is on renewable energy. As a country, we have gone through a period where we had to find alternative ways to keep the lights on because of the challenges we had, which we can see are hopefully behind us permanently. But that has resulted in a need to invest in renewables. And so industrialization, which then calls for localization, says, because we are spending so much money on solar panels, on batteries and storage, components, on inverters, and on even the accessories that are utilized to install these things, including nuts and bolts and all of those things. It's an opportunity to support existing industries nuts and bolts and steel frames, etc., and cables that we already have in the country, but it's an opportunity to create new industries in the form of making inverters in the country, of making those batteries that are required in the country. And that is what localization about in support of industrialization. Is there anything being consumed in the country? Is the money being spent on it? And are there possibilities of making those in the country because the market exists? And the benefits really are that once those industries start being supported, and jobs will be created. And that's why it's important that even at a policy level, you have government creating an enabling environment and providing as best as possible incentives, etc., that can make it possible for those who want to invest to come in and invest. Sure.
And there you have it, Anonymous. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Mashimbia, for that answer. And the next question is for the chairperson of FEDHASA, Leanne Singer. Leanne, you mentioned that there are pressing matters that affect how you run your business, more so when you speak about public-private partnerships. What are some of the pressing matters that affect how you run your business?
The list is long, and I reckon it depends on what your business is, where your business is operating, who your clients are. So some immediate, it's 4 years later. Yesterday we sat in a tourism leadership workshop here in Cape Town. There were 40 tourism leaders from all across South Africa, and the one common denominator is skills. So we have massive unemployment. We have a youth bubble. In a few years, we're going to have the largest under 30 population in the world, the African continent. So we have mass unemployment, unskilled youth. We have this massive gap in the middle. And then we have leadership at the top. So skills development and crucial skills for serving our businesses is a massive problem facing us. For example, in the hospitality industry, there is a huge amount shortage of chefs, right? Because our chefs are so expertly trained, because our chefs are so exceptional at what they do, they are in a high demand and high regard across the world. So there's a massive brain drain of our skills going out, right? So what are we going to do as an industry to get those critical skills and those people that our universities and schools have invested in training? How are we going to attract them back? So skills is a critical factor. And then obviously now I think we've gone, you can correct me, I think we've gone 40 days with no load shedding or more even, right? But if we had to have this conversation a year ago, energy supply was a major impact on all our businesses, regardless of what sector you're in. So whilst we've had our hiatus now in terms of our energy supply, I still wait with bated breath to get notification of load shedding, because that immediately we see, and I use this saying, I don't mean it lightly, our profits go up in smoke, right? Because that's literally what happens. Our profits go out in smoke. And then another factor that I feel is not addressed enough is access to finance for small businesses, and then the ownership of businesses in tourism, right? Not who sits on what boards, not who is the general manager of which fancy hotel, but where does the ownership of tourism lie? How much transformation has there been in terms of ownership in the tourism industry? We need to have a long, hard look at ourselves in the mirror and ask those hard questions in terms of how much has our industry transformed, and how can we as business owners and as public-private partnerships build a bridge to allow for that transition to take place. So I would say those are some of the things that keep me up at night. Oh, yes. And then, sorry, one more, if I may. Visas, right? We could have the most incredible products. We can have all those airlines flying in if we've lobbied for air access to open our borders. But if we make it hard for our visitors to visit our country with unnecessary, stringent, bureaucratic visa systems, why are they going to choose South Africa? We're a long-haul destination. Why should they choose us when they can go to our neighboring countries where there are no visa issues?
Absolutely. You've just also added a list for me in terms of sleepless nights and a shortage of chefs. There you go. I wasn't actually aware that South Africa has a shortage of chefs. I think we do take for granted some of the pleasures that we enjoy in terms of just walking into a space, ordering something that you like, and you say compliments to the chef, and to think that you can't do that anymore. That's something that AI cannot help us with. We do need chefs in South Africa. Thank you very much, Leanne, for that answer. Okay, the next question is for Candy, who is the head of marketing at Southern Sun Hotel. And the question is, hi, Candy, your presentation was very informative and well received. Thank you. My wife and I are busy with a boutique hotel concept in KwaZulu-Natal. What were the barriers of entry that stood out when starting a new branch or hotel around the country? Candy?
Thanks very much. Thanks for the question. So look, I mean, the barrier, I'll give you what I think needs to be evaluated prior to deciding to open a hotel or a bed and breakfast or a guest house. So first of all, location. I mean, that I think goes without saying. You need to ensure that you've done your competitor analysis appropriately. So there's no point in opening a business when the market is saturated. In a place where there is already an oversupply of hotel establishments or accommodation establishments. So it is very important to, first of all, get a sense of what the market looks like, where you feel that you've done sufficient analysis. Then I would suggest that what you do is you define your approach in the sense of what are you going to be offering a client that will differentiate your business. So once you've determined that yes, there is in fact a market, yes, you do in fact have an appropriate location, etc., what is going to differentiate your business in the marketplace and make it stand out to competitors? Will it be your service offering? Will it be your concept? Will it be who are you focusing your business towards, in the sense that you're targeting a particular well-defined category of customer. So those, I would say, are the things to consider. As far as barriers to entry, I think that would then be the mirror, the reverse of what I've just described. So I think careful analysis, those are your three key points that you need to take into consideration. And once you can tick those boxes, then of course you're kind of set with a good foundation and you can proceed confidently.
Thank you very much, Candy. Leanne, I see your hand is up and you are not in agreement. You'd like to add to that?
I'm very much in agreement with Candy. I was in my mind, I was thinking location. But what I would like to just make a suggestion to the guest who asked the question. It sounds so elementary. Whilst you're not going to get financing for your boutique hotel on the advice I'm about to give you, it's a very good starting point, right? It is. Go onto ChatGPT, go onto your favorite AI tool, and you literally ask these questions. You say, what are the hotels who are the greatest competitors in my neighborhood? Where is this hotel getting its business from? What is the guest reviews of the properties in the area? Go ask all these questions. And I constantly run on my businesses, on my hotels that have been managed by some of the big brands. I constantly do this exercise myself because it does a lot of the work for you. And it'll tell you, on a very, very simplistic level, as I say, you're not going to be able to take the AI report and go get finance from one of the big fives with us, right? But it'll give you some peace of mind to see what your competitors are doing, what their occupancies are, what they're selling at. It's a very basic tool if you're starting out in the industry to help empower you.
Thank you so much for the contribution, Leanne. And let's stick with that theme of AI, right? Because Aluwani Netwadzi is asking, what is the industry doing to keep up with AI? How can my company get access to assist Proudly South African to keep up with AI? Because this is something we cannot fight. How do we upskill and how do we change? Mr. Mashimbia, sir, the question is being posed in terms of how Proudly South African is keeping up or preparing itself for what is already here, artificial intelligence.
So I think before we even speak artificial intelligence, maybe what I need to speak about is the fact that we have embarked on a journey over the past couple of years to digitize all processes in the campaign to ensure that even our access to market programs have that element of technology in them to ensure that we keep up not only with the latest trends and developments, but ensure that our members benefit as part of the value proposition from us utilizing technology. So it's the portals that we've created, is the e-commerce platforms, the third-party sites that we have, including the Proudly SA's own online platform, which is going to be launched in a couple of weeks' time, soon to be announced. And look out for that on social media platforms. We will announce the date soon. So we have done what we can to ensure that even internally from an operational perspective, we have digitized all our processes and policies. And the next phase, which is interestingly what our team presented to us on a month and a half ago when we had our staff strategic session, was the utilization of artificial intelligence. And so that work has already started. In fact, there's a big joke in the organization around those who utilize AI to send each other emails. And people are suddenly writing better emails. And we have now discovered that it's actually the use of AI to help them communicate better, not only internally, but with our clients as well. And so there is extensive use. The benefit of having a relatively young IT team is the fact that they look out for latest trends, etc. And that is all deployed in the organization, not only in ensuring that we improve on the service levels, but also that we ensure that the organization itself keeps up with the latest trends. Thanks.
Very impressive. Thank you very much, Mr. Mashimbia, for that answer. And we take a look at a question from Victor Sibego asking, or rather commenting, Soweto Hotel is well placed to seal the Soweto tour experience. However, the challenge is the hotel is experiencing is that it is too expensive. For the same amount and more comfort of client safety, they set up setting for city hotels for even less than its rate. Why not consider group rates, especially for a guaranteed group booking? And that question is for Ms. Dineo Sitsetse. Are you still with us, ma'am? Okay, unfortunately, Ms. Dineo Sitsetse is not with us, but let's take a different question, I guess, and that question will then be directed to Mr. Makubela of Sakumzi Restaurant in Soweto. And the question for you, sir, is that especially when it comes to the building blocks and the foundation of building a solid and sustainable business, as you mentioned, you have been running for a number of years. How do you keep yourself relevant? Mr.
Us, when we started, we thought we have done our homework. We see a lot of tourists passing in Vilakazi Street. And as they say, location, location. We are next door Archbishop. We're in the famous Vilakazi Street next to Mandela Museum. But not even one bus came in. So yes, we had to change our idea or concept that we're not going to target tourist, we're gonna target local. So we like Proudly South African when they say buy local to create jobs. So we started recruiting locals. We started mostly focusing on stock fairs. So stock fairs, they make a difference because they come in numbers. So the people who have made Sakumzi to be where it is the locals, and mostly your local stock fairs. That is why today Sowetans will always support us, whether there's COVID or no COVID, because the chairs and tables, when they need to be done or fixed, it's the locals that are making them. The tablecloths that are in the tables, or when we need to wash them, it's made by our locals. Your cardboards, your cans, your bottles, who takes them is the locals, and they are able to go and sell that, even your oil. And the meat or the tribe, we spend more than 70,000 a week, weekly 70, 80. That money, we source our meat and tribe locally. And why are we always relevant? It's because the people we have hired are locals, and most of them, they come at Sakumzi, they've never worked before, they get to be trained. So yes, our challenge will always be recruitment and training, because the people we absorb, they have passed with 30%, meaning out of 100, 70 was wrong and only 30 was right. So to train those people is not easy. So we still need more after the COVID-19, because the business took a knock. Most of our skilled people who understood our culture had to go and work somewhere. So management and leadership is still another challenge, but we've been able to grow with those challenges, and we are proud to say the people we have started with, we had to train them, we took them to varsity, they work in corporate companies, and others, we have trained them to do a job rotation. They got to understand what is business. Today, they run their own law firms, they run their own security companies. So what makes people to keep on coming to us? Because they know the value we are giving to Soweto. Thanks.
Thank you very much, sir, for that answer indeed. And we have a question from Lerato Mapasa, who's saying, we're a small business that runs Airbnb self-catering units in Johannesburg, and we have a tourism event that is a crafts market in the Maluti Drakensberg mountain in the Free State village of Monotsa. And essentially the question here being, what do we need to do to be proudly South African? And we would also like to join other tourism agencies that would assist us to grow like Southern Sun Club. And the question essentially being, how do we separate ourselves from the rest? Mr. Mashimbie.
Look, the best way to join Proudly South African is to go to our website. There is a link there, proudlysa.co.za. Try and fill in your details. We will help you complete the process. Alternatively, write to us info@proudlysa.co.za so that you subject yourself to a vetting process, which ultimately will allow you to be given the right to use the logo on all your collateral and marketing material and anything else that you are using to identify both your company as well as your offerings. And that way, you will benefit by association. And that is a differentiator between you and your competitors, in that through utilizing the logo and us at the same time saying to consumers, buy locally made products, support locally made services of companies that carry the logo, because we vetted them. You will then, naturally get support. And we have endless stories of our members who are telling us that people are supporting them because they see them utilizing the logo, because they understand that they can be trusted. People are sometimes reluctant to visit an establishment that they don't necessarily know of, where you don't necessarily have a review to look at, and where you have not had any experience of visiting it before. But because of the Proudly SA logo and the message that we are putting out, we are saying you can trust all of these companies because they've been vetted, and you can trust that they will satisfy the need for which you are visiting them or buying the product from them, or even taking up a service. So the Proudly SA vetting process and the fact that we communicate it as a mark of quality helps you that affiliates with us to benefit from whatever narrative we're putting out there, from customers trusting that they can buy from you, they can visit your establishment, even though you are unknown to them. I hope that that helps. I see Leanne's hand is up to you.
If I can add, our future travelers, current travelers, but not such a huge percentage, but future travelers are going to make choices based on the ESG principles, right? Economic, social, and governance. we're going to have travelers who possibly one day are going to have to account for their own carbon footprint. So if you as a business has that beautiful Proudly South African logo attached to your brand, you've set yourself apart from others. It's a USP, but not only do they know that it's a good quality product, they know that they're supporting a sustainable business because it's one of the pillars of Proudly South Africa. So it is a great sales tool when attracting international markets in particular.
Thank you so much, Leanne, for adding in on that. And with that, we have come to the conclusion of our program. A big thank you to each and every single one of our attendees for your questions and your contribution this morning into the afternoon. As we conclude the event, I would like for us to please then move on to the closing remarks session of our program, where we just get a word of reflection from each one of our panelists. Leanne, let's start with you, please.
I'd like to say thank you for facilitating this communication, right? We've all acknowledged today that it's within tourism that the catalytic change lies with in terms of job creation and the creation of businesses. And let's support each other. There are so many resources out there, and I think it is very important to connect. As I said in my presentation, those at the bottom compete, those at the top collaborate. Let's collaborate. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm happy to chat to anybody who wants to connect with me and my businesses where we can support and on a FedHasa point of view. So thank you for the great work done, Proudly South Africa.
Thank you very much, Leanne Singer, chairperson of FedHasa. Southern Sun, head of marketing, Candy Tothill. Your closing remarks, please.
Thank you very much. I'd like to second what Leanne said and say thank you very much, Proudly South African, for coordinating this really, really important webinar. I 100% agree that we need to come together as an industry. We do have a powerful impact to make. We're already making that impact. And I think that by collaborating, supporting each other, we can certainly change, I think, the future for tourism in this country. And by doing that, I think that the South African economy can not help but to benefit from our efforts. So when one ship rises, or when the tide comes in, all ships rise. And that's our view. And yeah, I think from our side, we are committed to playing our part. We are committed to ensuring that we buy local, and we encourage everybody in South Africa to buy local and to wear the Proudly South African badge. I feel that it's kind of a badge of honor. And certainly, I think when tourists come through, I think they should be encouraged to buy local and not buy anything else. So, so I think that's a great place to start making a real impact for everybody. I have dropped the links to the HCI Supplier Club social media in the comments. And once again, thank you very, very much for having us on this panel discussion.
Thank you very much, Candy, and for your contribution. Mr. Makubela, sir, your closing remarks, please.
Every time I get to talk about my business, it reminds me that it's not all about me, but it's about my beautiful country and its people. So let's buy local and create jobs so that our people can have a purpose. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Makubela, for your contribution, Sakumzi Makubela. And unfortunately, we have lost our connection with Ms. Dineo Sitsetse, the General Manager of Soweto Hotel. But with that, we leave the last word for Proudly South African CEO, Mr. Eustace Masimbe. Sir, if you could please give us your closing remarks.
Mine is to thank the colleagues, spokespeople for Proudly South African. I promise you, I did not pay any of them to say what they said. With Leanne finishing off my contribution in response to one of the questions, And Candy coming on and talking about the fact that it's really a badge of honor. I really appreciate it. It shows that this is a collective effort, and the successes that will be attained by all of those who affiliate with Proudly South African will not only happen as a result of our efforts as Proudly South African, but the collective. One of the very first commitments we received as Proudly South African towards localization and an entity raising their hand saying they're going to buy local was from Southern Sun. Back then, when we launched the Will You Commit campaign, one of the first corporates to commit was Southern Sun. And Candy, you gave us that commitment, and we're grateful to see that you still live the ethos and the values. And we've had a strategic partnership with FEDHASA for many, many years. My colleagues tell me that they do a lot of work with Sakumzi. The CMO at Proudly South African has told me about the conversations we've had with Sakumzi, and we are looking to working with you, Mr. Makubela, to ensure that we not only support you, but also the SMMEs, not only in Vilakazi Street, but in all townships across the country, but looking at, utilizing your various establishments to support all of those industries that are part of the extensive value chains involved in the supply of what you require and use on a day-to-day basis. And that is my parting shot, is to thank the collective. It's a partnership. We all have a duty to this country. And like I said when we started, it's about economic patriotism. Let's be patriotic to the country, even through the funds we have at our disposal. And so, parting shot is buy local to create jobs. Thank you very much to you as well for facilitating this for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, sir, for the invitation. And a big thank you once again to each and every single one of our panelists and each and every single one of our attendees. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to share your couple of hours with us this morning. We are indeed grateful. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let's go out there and see what else we can get that is proudly South African. Have yourselves a magic day, and thank you very much for participating. And thank you to our speakers, Proudly South African CEO, Mr. Eustace Mashimbie, FEDHASA Chairperson, Leanne Singer, Southern Sun Hotel Group Head of Marketing, Candy Tothill, Sakumzi Restaurant, Sakumzi Makubela, as well as Soweto Hotels, Dineo Sitsetse, and you, our participants. Have yourself a beautiful day. Thank you.